I wasn't going to record this, but I'm going to, despite the fact that I've been feeling very frustrated. Anyway, there have been a couple of things I've been really pondering about. One of them has to do with the raw food vegan diet. I know there's like a lot of debate out there with being a raw foodist, and you know, some of you might not even be familiar with the different types of ways you could actually indulge into raw vegan foods. There is what's called the 80-10-10 diet, where you're getting 80% of your calories from carbohydrates in the forms of fruits, like bananas and dates and mangoes, and then you get 10% from fat and 10% from protein. And then there's people that kind of do more of an even percentage of all three macronutrients, so like 33, 33, 33, protein, fat, and carb. I know with raw veganism, one thing I'm finding is that, and I might get some backlash on this, but the higher fat isn't a big deal as long as it's raw and as long as it's coming from a very good source. So I am actually embracing a higher fat diet these days, taking in more of the avocados and more of even oils, the really good oils though, like the stone pressed oils, olive oil, walnut oil. And Dan the Man, the Life Regenerator, has also been embracing this, so it's something just to give it a try for a little bit. I will say, if you're going to be eating fats, get them raw, and get them, you know, especially if you're getting oils. I don't overdo it on the oils, I just kind of minimize the oils, but I have been using them here and there. But don't ever, ever, ever eat cooked fats. If you're going to be a cooked food vegan, I would stick with 80-10-10, because cooked fats are the worst. They go rancid, and you know, they just, your body doesn't do well with cooked fats. So if you're going to be eating cooked foods, minimize the fats. If you're going to be eating raw, some fat is okay. Another thing about raw foods, why is raw food so much better? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Raw foods are much better than cooked foods because everything is intact. When you heat up a food, you are denaturing the nutrients and the enzymes that are in those foods that actually help you digest the food more thoroughly, more completely. If you're denaturing those enzymes that could digest the food. By the way, the enzymes that are in the food itself, we call those exogenous enzymes because they are not produced within our bodies, they're produced by the plant that has them. So when you eat a raw food diet, you're getting those enzymes, and some people say, well, you know, when you put the food into your stomach and the food mixes with the acid, it's going to all denature anyway. Not true. People that have actually thoroughly studied the mechanics of the stomach know that the stomach has different regions. The stomach is a little J-shaped sac in our left upper quadrant in our abdominal cavity, and it has 4 different regions. It has the fundic region, the cardiac region, those are kind of the upper part of the stomach, the body, which makes up the bulk of the stomach, and the pyloric region, which is right before the food goes into the small intestine. And when the food comes into the stomach, it actually is not digested right away. It's not mixed with the gastric secretions like the hydrochloric acid and the pepsinogen. It does kind of hang out a little bit in the upper part of the stomach, in that fundic and cardiac region, where, if given time, the food, if it's in its natural state, will decompose itself. It will break down itself using its own enzymes. And the more it breaks down, the less we need to break it down. So why is that beneficial? Why is it beneficial if our enzymes are not needed? Well, because if we're not using our enzymes for digestion, we can be using them for breaking down things in our body, for breaking down plaques like mucoid plaques in the intestines, or breaking down atherosclerotic plaques in the blood vessels, or even breaking down tumors. A lot of the protein digestive enzymes actually break down the growths in our body, small tumors, benign or even cancerous. Less enzymes you need to use for digestion, that means you have more enzymes to be used for breaking down old bad stuff and helping to then the body regenerate. So that's why raw foods rock. That's why they're amazing for us. Raw foods in any state are much better than cooked foods. And I think raw vegan foods are the best because we're humans and we're not biologically meant to be eating animals. I mean, these little canines, also called the cuspids, you think you can bite into a cow with this? You can't. We're not meant to. And knowing that raw cow meat would be better than cooked cow meat, and then when you cook it, you're denaturing all the protein and it just becomes a poison at that point. You know, just stay away from the animal products altogether. Animal products, not good. So, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that I have been watching some YouTube videos by Lou Corona, and he is like a 60-plus-year-old long-term raw vegan. And when you look at him, just type in on Google or YouTube Lou Corona, and he looks like he's probably in his 30s or 40s, and he's 60 something. So look him up, and you'll see how young he looks. He looks amazing. He is really into the enzymes. He's really into probiotics. He cultures his food, which is something I'm going to try as well. So these are all things I'm going to kind of start experimenting with. I've always known they have existed in the raw food arena, but I've never really tried them. So that's going to be a new adventure for me, getting into enzymes, probiotics, and culturing my foods. I do feel like I need to detoxify my body. So when detoxifying, I am going to stay away from the fats, even the raw healthy fats, because they're just a bit heavier, and I'm going to embrace the enzymes and the probiotics possibly, and I'm going to let my body clean out. So I'm hoping like the month of June, that'll be the time when I'm going to really hit the detoxification pretty hard. Mostly sticking with a lot of juices, maybe some smoothies, but for the most part juices, green juices especially. And I'm going to be adding things like chlorella to my juice, because that's an excellent detoxifier, and using a lot of different types of greens, like dandelion greens, which I can get free for my yard, so that's always cool. So this is a book. It's called Free Food and Medicine, and it is a wild edible guide. I like it because it's really thick and it's pretty comprehensive, but also it does highlight those greens that are poisonous. So that's really important, because you don't want to just like willy-nilly go pick out some weeds from your yard and start eating them and then, you know, get really sick or possibly die. So really be careful and study the plants. I've been doing it quite a bit with my backyard, just looking at it. And then so far I've juiced violet and I've juiced dandelion greens. So I think maybe I'll stop here and maybe do a second video on my soul's purpose and that whole journey. I think this video pretty much explains enzymes, why they're important, and why being a raw vegan